Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming, and it's in the From the Depths once more, and this is going to be a little bit of a building episode. And the main focus of this build is I want to go through what I'm doing for the Zeppelin, Kaiserlich Marine, or Zeppelin, whatever, the airships. So how I'm building them, what I'm thinking about building them, and also some of the design decisions I make, and just get some input from people. So first of all, I don't use mimics. B, these are only really designed to go against deep water guard, not anything bigger at this moment. So we're not worried about lasers, railguns, or anything else of that ilk. Design is still in fundamental stages for this particular style of ship, and we're basing it on early pre-dreadnought and dreadnoughts, basically pre-dreadnoughts at the moment, German Kaiserlich Marine ships. So with those in mind, when the comments come in, just it's not, these are not supposed to be competition, highly effective, blah blah, etc. like that. It's just a bit of a show. So how do I go through this? So first of all, I bring up a picture of what I'm wanting to sort of I'm not trying to make a historical, because obviously this is a Zeppelin and that's a ship, so it's never done, but pick a few design cues from the picture that I will follow through in the build. Key bits, those three funnels, they seem quite key to the shape. That's quite a, it's got a ramp bow, which is quite interesting for me. Otherwise it's a fairly standard ship, nothing quite large on it. The bridge is in the center, so we haven't got to worry about some of those bits because we're rebuilding that type of system in here. The Zeppelins don't really have the masts, but I do like the searchlights on the masts, so maybe I'll find something to do with those. The other bit is the original weaponry and how it got modified. So I look at the history, and this had 10.5 mil guns, 2 on the front, 2 on the rear, side by side, and 3 on each side, and then it had 3.7 Maxim guns. So that's I'm just sort of work within that sort of idea with 2 types of guns, and a primary and a secondary. The other bit is what were these intended at. So these were light cruisers. They were scouting, escort, patrol, quite fast. Armoured, but not overly armoured. So armour wise, I'm looking at maybe a bit of metal with some alloy backing it. I think will be about the range I'm looking for, not much more than that. So they're the design cues. So that's in the end result is to pick a few of those bits and pieces to put into my build. But back to the actual build. First of all, we've got to go through what I'm going to build for we'll call it the airbag. So all of my airships have a definitive airbag. Now, for this size of ship, let me bring up on my UI so I can see where the front is. I follow a similar sort of design system for most of them. Now, I do have a couple of different, let's put the line on for as long as it will last. I do have a couple of different items that I put in, and I did something wrong because I'm talking at the same time. I did something wrong. Let's start that again. Right, so let me just get this part down. Let's see, am I going to do, I'm just thinking in my head at the moment what I'm going to do on the first stages of it. We'll go with 4s. Maybe go with 4s. Okay, so all I'm looking at here is the how many gas bags I'm going to have on my ship. The more gas bags you have, the less susceptible it is to falling out of the sky because a gas bag gets hit. But it's less efficient because you need more gas bags to lift the main body of the vehicle up. So we're going to go with, since it's a light cruiser, not heavily armed, we're going to go with a lot of little bags rather than larger bags. So this will come into play in a second. So after that, as I was about to say, I've got different design ideas I have for these, and some of it boils down to how I put these trusses in the center. Now I'm going for an external here, so basically I've got this truss at the bottom and the bags are going to be attached to it above, and that's going to be the basic design philosophy that I'm going to follow through on this one. So I'm also going to put trusses inside each bag to act as a support. They're also things I can attach things to when going to the outside without them being attached to a very flimsy item. Okay, so this is the basic support of a gas bag. Now what we're going to use, we want as light as possible and as cheap as possible. So basically, as you see here, a metal plate has 8 and an alloy plate has a weight of 1, cost of 1, that's a weight of 8. So the cheapest block as far as weight goes, that's got 10, you know. Everything else, I think you could I think glass window, even a glass window weighs more than alloy plate. So truss blocks are the next lowest item, which is why I've used them as the framing in the inside, but they do have a little bit of health and armor, 3100, whereas these have, sorry, here we go, 35. They don't quite have the health. Anyway, we're going to use some alloy plates, and what we're going to do is line the inside of this to make this first gas bag, just to show how it's done. So important bit, you want to make the maximum space on the inside, you want, if you look at these, they have one section which is hitting the truss and one section which is outside, and you want that bit outside. You don't want to put it this way, because that actually is a block that doesn't contain air very well, the helium. So you want it on the outside. So there, and also down at the bottom. Okay, and on the top. Next, you want to think about how you're going to join those up, those angles. So you could either just go straight angles there, which I don't like. I like to create another level here. Of plates. So we're going a 3x3, and then we'll have one angle joining them up. Same on the bottom. That's got to go and fill in this gap as well. That's it. Now I can put the angled. Now, see, now I can't still put the angled plate in. I don't think it will allow me. It would, but it would, with connection rules on, it will not allow me to put those plates in. So I've got to build up the outside first. So this is where the first sealing sort of part of this comes in that I've got to put enough, again, plates on the outside to seal this area up. Bear with me, let me just get these first plates on. We need to go there, there, and there. We're not one in there. Da. Right, now I can use this end one to put our slopes in. And the same at the bottom on the other side. Come on. Right, that's a starting point, but it's still not sealed because we haven't sealed this side. So if we just put a helium pump in for the moment, just to show, and I like to put them at the top, connected to this truss. So it acts as part of the holding of it. Now it's frozen at the moment, but as you can see, it's not giving us any buoyancy because, you know, we have a big opening here. So I'm also going to use this to show one thing. So let me just seal up this opening. So again, they're all facing the same way. So it's a copy of what we did on this side. So now that that other side is all blocked up, we have a buoyancy of 57 cubic meters. So that's per cell. Obviously, if without these trusses, if you did those without, one issue is these blocks can get very easy to destroy. You knock one connection up and whole sections will disappear. That's why I always like to do it with these trusses in place, just to add a little bit of extra support. So what you could now do is create a prefab. So if I go into that mode and press that way, okay, go into prefab mode. Make a copy of the key bit. Actually, I need let's go for there. Make it a little longer than I need to, and then I can adjust it when I do it. So if I now capture that prefab, and then I can just let's make sure I have got this right, so we can see the trusses that I've got to match up. So chunk, oh, didn't do the side. Okay, I'm gonna have to then just adjust that one. I forgot the ones at the width need an extra little bit, and I think possibly the height. And I think I'm going to go down to there. Okay, that's better. Right, capture the prefab. So we're going to link it on that bit there. Click. That looks better. So I've now got the basic, what should we call it, the balloon area, the main area for my ship, that is going to now hold all of the weight of the ship. So now the next key area is the weight. We've got to put armour on this, and we've got to allow for some of the armour's going to be quite heavy. Now, one thing I do straight away is I'm going to create some points, some extra points to connect the ship up to, the armour up to the ship. Don't worry about that. Let's just that one at the front. I think I need another block here. We'll put a we'll hold off for that on the moment. We'll put it just there. And what I tend to do, because this is going to be the armoured section, and I want at least a 1 block gap around, preferably 2, all the way around the outside, I tend to use a 3 block unit. So there's got 1 gap there, an air gap, a double air gap, and then where my armour is going to start on the vehicle. Now this could, as I go through the design of my ships, this may change. I might make them a bit wider, a bit thinner. Any comments on design? Because these are a bit slab-sided for this first dreadnought, pre-dreadnought style, because they are just basic. I'll try and work some better designs out later. And also we've got down the bottom, so I've got to think, what's the armour scheme I'm going to go for? So I think that I'm just going to go for 2 armour layers, and the heaviest bit will be on the side here. Whoops, I need to start thinking about colouring all of these in the correct colour. Let's do it like that. Left it a little bit late for some of these, and I'm just going to go up a bit and down. And also I've got to think, what am I going to do at the bottom? Because at the bottom we're going to have like the gondola sitting off, but we need to armour the bottom. Now I think most of the hits are going to come across on the side and this angle, and underneath we'll need a bit of armour, but not quite as much. So we'll possibly, yeah, I think we'll set that as a small underside area, and have slopes going in here to give a bit of armour, but most of the armour's on. And after a bit of a jump cut there due to a crash, I've had to reload, luckily from the auto save, so I completed up the armouring. And what I was saying, or trying to say, or started to say, was that we've got a limited bag area as such to lift the ship, so the armour we put in needs to be capable of, you know, within bounds of what this lift is. So I've put some armour in, which I'll go through in a second, which I think is suitable for this light cruiser based upon my progression, shall we say. But there is a limit. Too much, you certainly couldn't put heavy armour on here. I'll see if I can demonstrate. I mean, if you just started getting heavy armour onto the sides here, you can see that just one layer, and already we're having problems keeping up, basically. So you can't just add heavy armour, etc., to this type of vehicle without repercussions. What I've gone to on here is a so we can see, what was the weight of that? The weight of that is 800, so we know 800 would be too much, whereas a metal block is, let's see, 160. So we could mostly put a couple of metal blocks in with this particular what we got, 1, 2, 3 by 3, to get something more armoured. To be able to have those, this has got to be bigger. But if you make the bag area bigger, so the amount of armour area has to go up. So there is a correlation between those two factors. I have got battleship versions which have got more armour than this, but for this particular version I've gone with basically the outside is a metal slope, or the metal half triangle area. Then we've got a full alloy block, and then an air gap. So this air gap is where we can put guns, equipment, resources, or just make it extra lifting power, etc. Or just separate it out into, if need be, put more armour. We could put some armour on the inside of here if we want some more armour. The bottom is just a single light alloy, because we didn't have a gondola coming down from the bottom here, which is going to hold the main guns, so they'll act as effectively armour against that underneath. And we're not expecting ships or such, etc., to be attacking from directly below. They're more likely going to be coming in either directly at this side or slightly on this slope. Now hopefully if they come in at the right angle, we'll potentially get a ricochet down, or if they hit the top, they'll get a ricochet up. So the top actually only has this one metal here, and the rest is just light alloy blocks. Crams could potentially come as a high angle on here, but I'm expecting more often it's going to be a straight shot, more akin to this sort of angle coming in. So yeah, we're unlikely to get a high shot. We're more likely to be hitting this angle here. Anyway, that's the armouring stage of the vessel, and some of the bits. We've obviously got to build the front on this yet, and put the other items in. But next is the most heavy part is next going to be the weapons for this. So we had 105 mils, which we're going to use 105 mils, and we're going to do some weapon testing next. So we'll go to our weapon testing pad in a second, and I'll show you what I do to test my weapons, and how I break up my build. So I'm going to go there, test some weapons, then come back once I work them out, and then we'll put these next heavy weapons into this build, and then we start putting other heavy parts like propulsion, and start working on the rear and the front so that they look good, but obviously are working with the weight we have from all of the weapons and other parts. So okay, I'll see you on my weapons platform in a second. So this is my little weapon test platform for testing APS guns. Easy enough to make. Just find any sort of fortress platform you want to use, build a gun, and build some targets. Important bit is don't have it on godly mode, and turn off your own repairs so you don't start repairing things. Then you can build lots of different ammunition types to test in the gun. All you need to do is change the shell gauge, and that way you can test it. Now we're not testing everything. First of all, I muck around with penetration. So all I do, I've made 3 example 105 shells which will go through. So I will load up one of the guns. So we'll load the 105 AP. So I had a bit of a muck around with 3 types of shell. We'll have a look around. Now, situation. What I want this to do is quickly overwhelm wooden ships, destroy the wooden parts, destroy the guns, propulsion, all those type of parts of a ship. If you just do enough damage, it will die. You're not trying to blow it up in one go. We're going to have a broadside of hopefully about 7 guns, all firing at wooden type of ships with a bit of metal. So what I have set up targets here, turn my light on, and also my debug. So I'm setting up wooden blocks, wooden slopes, 3 different types and angles, and then at the back I put a load of AI connectors just to see whether the damage goes through and how much damage to internals they do. And then I've got 2 wooden blocks, and then wooden blocks with poles, so they would be anti-heat HESH, that type of roll. See what happens if you want to test those. And then I do the same for metal and also some alloy, and heavy metal and alloy, just so you can get a bit of a test. You change this depending on what you're up against. So if I'm more up against, say, white flayers, I will change these to be alloy and test more alloy based targets rather than wood. If I'm against Onyx Watch, then I'm mainly working against this metal, and if it got further on, I'm going to be looking at heavy armour. But at the moment, for the deep water guard, we've got mainly wood, and I want to just do destruction to wood parts, especially the small parts, but be able to take on a wooden block and potential to hit metal but not take it out. So first shell is a simple AP shell, AP with HE, so nice. Plus minus of this, won't be firing as fast because of the amount of gunpowder. This is going to take a long time to cool down and reload each shot, but it has a good penetration factor. So what I need to do now is select the gun and give it some shots, just to see what happens. So okay, it's taking a block out, and I think it, let's just check, get damage somewhere behind it, against 2 blocks of wood. Yeah, it takes in 1 block of wood out. Against the slopes, took 1 out and something behind. That's good. Let's go into the middle back there. 2 meter slopes, good, and those ones, that's also good. I'm not expecting this to do anything to metal. No, didn't do anything to metal or alloy. Not as expected, but does a nice bit of damage to the wooden parts. Yeah, that's got potential. It was going through and damaging behind, so that's a good common one, but it's not to be necessarily quick firing. So next shell, HE frag. So this is a hollow. I like these, see, so they're hollow point solid, so they do a bit of thump damage, which is going to damage the block in front, especially if it's a small block. It hasn't got much armor piercing, so that's not going to go too high, but you've got a nice bit of explosive damage, so we're adding up to about 1,000, just over about 11, yeah, about 1,000 for thump damage, and then having some fragments on there means it's going to do a good area damage, another 700. So we'll give those a go. So basically we go through this, APS, access, change the AP frag, assign, clear clips. Now on the, we can press Q on our area, do designer, repair all, and refill APS shells. So now we should be full up, and everything on here is back to fully repaired, so we're not testing against something which is partially damaged. So let's have a go against the block. See, that's nice. That did a nice bit of damage, and it's the frags meant it's damaged a nice big area and also extra blocks. That's quite nice. Yeah, it's taking out 2 blocks. I like that. Let's try against some of the slopes. Ooh, nice big area damage. Even damage things up on the next section up. Yeah, and the slopes. I quite like those. And metal, not expecting it to do much against metal. Taking about 8 shots to get through metal. That is a downside for this. I think the AP ones would have gone through in about 3, so that's worse. Let's just try alloy. That was about 6 shots to get through alloy. Yeah, not unhappy with this, especially against wood. That's doing quite a good area sort of damage, so that's why I like this one. Then we have the other speciality I thought I'd try would be a heat round. So this is more poking holes in the enemy. Again, it's not a fast loading, but it's going to poke holes. It's got the AP itself has a good AP level, and then you've got the heat, so if it gets stopped it will still go through with something. So let's just try access intakes, clear the clips, and then just repair and everything. So designer mode, repair or refill APS shells. There we go. So we're back up, yep, and everything is nicely repaired again. Oh, hello, Mr. Bot. Right. Against the wood. Hits the back, and it's a very specific block hitting against 2. So you can see that down the bottom was a bit, so a AI block came off, so that was the heat. Now I'm not expecting it to go against the wood here because it's using poles, but a lot of the from the depths do not have pole type of armor, so there's a bit still did damage to the wood behind. Good part about this is if we've got a wood covered AI, that's still going to be taking them out, even 2 blocks of wood, even heavy armor. Alloy, 2 blocks of alloy. So that is the benefit if you're going. But look at the, oh, we just go against these. Against the wood, the general area, the area of effect is minimal, to be honest. So my thought is, although it's between the APHE and this AP frag, so I think my thought is towards this hollow point HE frag, and just go for a ship which is getting close, and then just unleash lots of rounds against a wooden ship and just sort of like blow it apart, rather than a ship which is trying to penetrate, leave and damage from the inside. Leave that to the armoured cruisers and the heavy cruisers. So my next stage is to build a 105 deck gun and casemate. I'm not going to build a complex turret on this particular ship, because don't need it. I've also got to fit a lot of guns onto here, and I just don't have enough space. If I start putting turrets that go into this the balloon area, I'm going to reduce my chance, my, what should we say, words have left me, as always. I'm going to reduce my lift, so all I've got to use is this space in here for casemate guns, or put them all onto a gondola, and I've got about 3, 4, maybe 5 5v5 potentially, but I think I'm going to go for deck guns. We can go a little bit into these bag areas on the top for a deck gun, and maybe we can go a little bit into this area, or the front for the main, the underneath guns and the casement guns. We can possibly fit them in. My current scheme is to build a separate gondola and place them on there all as deck guns, so we'll go on that. So let me just come up with a couple of ideas, and I'll show you the second part of the testing, just to see how these will work for me. After a bit of playing around with a few settings and having some fun destroying things, because destroying things is always good fun, and it's one of the bits I enjoy about From the Depths, I've come up with a couple of guns, and I thought to myself, well, why choose between the AP and the HE frag? Why not have both? Now, what I have come up with is a sort of turreted version. These are both sort of similar size, but one's going to be used as a casemate and one's used as a turret. So the first one here is a turret. If we bring up some of the details, so we don't have to have a little 2-block underneath wherever is set as its area. So if it's on the deck, we'll give it a turret ring of 1, which will be fixed to the deck, and then 1 underneath. And I may create a reversed version of this, which is for the turret that goes effectively underneath the ship, so it'll actually go 1 beam into the bottom of the main underpart, if that makes sense. we'll see what I can come up with on that, so that it works and looks like it's on the deck, but not actually on the deck. Hopefully that makes sense. And then this one is a turreted. It's non-turreted. It's a casement, so there's no turret on here. So it's just going to sit on the deck, and we'll have that 3 of these sort of next to each other on each side. And what I have come up with is I was wrong on one bit, in that the size of the shell does have an effect on rate of fire, but different ways. So the short shell but long gunpowder needs more cooling to get the ammo rate up, whereas the hollow point with lots of shell parts but small doesn't need much cooling, but does need the advantage from the loaders. So basically we've got the AP shell in the turret with mainly normal 1 meter loaders set up as 2 quads, and then there is one belt fed there, which is giving us a sustained rate, well, a auto-loader rate of about 53. So we'll sustain about 50 in the short to mid-term. Going up obviously 37 whilst the if it runs out of ammo totally, it's got a fair bit in there, 165. But these will be turreted, so they'll be firing all the time, and I don't want them with the autoloaders always, because I want these to be able to fire at some point consistently. They're my consistent damage givers, for want of a better word. And then for the HE frag, we'll have the casement guns as we got here, and don't need to look at that. Now these are generally just using the belt-fed auto-loaders, which are expensive, but has pushed that up to an auto-loader limit of 71, but the cooling limit's 68, so it's going to be firing around that 70 RPM, 68 RPM in general. A little bit faster than that, but the limit on this is the cooling limit of 68. Everything else is roughly okay. Recoil absorption's a little low. Might see if I can fit an absorber in here somewhere, although, you know, I'm already pretty full up. We'll see if there's space. I'll bung one on the end once I've put them in place. The good bit about these, I can just create a prefab to put these on the ship, and then just create, lay them down in the place. On this I can just set them as a sub object for use in the ship. How I tested them, obviously you can just shoot at stuff, but my preferred way is to go out, so I'm about 2,000 meters, which is the range I think I will be firing at, close enough. And then bring in a target. So you choose your target. We're bringing a ship just for the moment. We're bringing a Corsair, and spawn, and then quickly go to the AI and turn off the AI for movement and guns. And the only thing I need to do is make sure that my ship is pointing at the target, otherwise the casement gun will have a problem. The casement gun only has a normal 1 meter, so it has a 30-degree area. Obviously the turreted version has a much wider field of fire. Anyway, just you let them blow stuff up for a little while, see how it looks, and as expected, the HE is reliable, always doing a bit of damage, knocking things off, disabling guns and stuff like that, but the AP one does like digging in and eventually killing things if it gets a good shot. Oh, someone got a good shot there as example. So these I will make as the guns for the ship, and next I would be putting them on to the our main body. So let me get that bit done, and then we'll go through the final bit of the build. So after doing a rough first gun layout for the main guns, we've got our first problem, i.e. we can't maintain height. So the guns are too heavy is one option, or we have to add more way of lifting, basically. No two ways around it. We've got to find a more lift. So there is an area we've got where we can add some lift, and that's this center area. Now one minor issue we've got, because we've got we're using these trusses here, they leak air between the areas. So if I just put just to show you what I mean, if I just put a pump in here, which should also get duplicated to the other side, you'll see this says it's a duplicate pump. If I bring on the UI, you'll be able to see it. Duplicate pump, and that's because it thinks that this pump is linked to the same area. So we got a couple of ideas here, or a couple of possibilities. One is a heavyweight option, and one's a lightweight option. One is change all of these truss blocks for solid light alloy. That's one way to do it. That's a little heavy because you're still adding weight, because they're going to be heavier than what you're taking away, if you see what I mean. So the other way is just strategically remove some of them. So if I remove that one and in its place put my helium pump, that will now be providing helium to both sides. So we've got a good 1100 cubic meters. Now this isn't going to be very good, because the slightest hole in this side and it's going to leak like it's going to leak basically. So what we might have to do is basically create a couple of these at the front and back, basically subcompartmentalize this inside, so we've got a little bit, say 4 areas, I think. We're going to use just some light blocks, so that let's just make sure we've got yep, see, now that's giving us enough lift. And going through the build at various stages, especially when adding something heavy, you're going to have to rebalance the whole lift equation. And just in the middle of explaining, I got another crash, which is what I have to work with at the moment on occasion, so thank heavens for the autosaves. Anyway, I was saying that I've got to, when building with lighter than air, you've got to keep on constantly rebalancing, potentially finding somewhere to make more capacity for your helium or etc. Now at this stage I'm going to finish it with what we are there. The heaviest bits I've got to put in, which are going to give me problems, is going to be the steam engines and boilers. Boilers I'm going to put near the centre with some of the 3 funnels, and the steam engines are going to have to be, I think, on the rear. Good bad bit is building the front, because there's going to be a spare hollow space that will add some lift, but I want to add weight, so I've got to I want to add armour for the front to get that prow shape. So hopefully it will balance itself out with enough lift for the amount of armour I'm putting in, and the same for the back. At the back I've got to put a compartment for the steam engines. Now, to be honest, I would prefer the steam engines somewhere slightly away from the rear, possibly here. It brings the weight in slightly more into the centre, which is easier to balance. So I'm going to have to see. I might I might try them in this area. Also means that this gun isn't worried about hitting anything. And then on the rear is mainly going to be, if you see my other designs, apart from a bit of sloping in, it's going to be a lot of I'm trying to think of the right word. These things, control surfaces, that's the word I'm looking for. There's a lot of control surfaces going into the rear, so it's going to add a little bit of lift but not too much. So I think it might be better to have the steam engine somewhere in this area, but I will subcompartmentalize this center bit, possibly get rid of some of these trusses and just put another light block linking them, and then have basically 4 subcompartments, maybe 5. We'll count how many we got, but a few subcompartments in this center area. That way, if one of them gets blown out, we won't lose all of our buoyancy. Yeah. Let me finish those off, and then we'll see what we end up with, and what other challenges I've had in making this. I've got to say, I'm not happy with the look of this. It's no, I'm gonna have to change this. So I might change some of the metal that's here to either slopes or alloy, because I say alloy, you know, light alloy. It don't look right. Yeah, I don't know. It just I'm not. It's not giving me those comfy feelings. So maybe I can save some weight on this section as well. So then maybe I'll sort that out. Anyway, the pluses and minuses of building airships. You've got to look out for weight, and then you've got the shape. Oh well. See you in a bit, hopefully. And I'm finally happy with the build as it is so far for the Light Cruiser Bremen. Couple of little changes since I did have a couple of crashes, so I thought I'd finish things. I changed the let me just get into a view stable. I changed the casement design. I wasn't happy with it, so I've moved them actually onto a turreted rather than being casemated. Still not happy. It's a bit big for the overall design, but you know, that's best I could do with these slopes. So it's not quite as protected as I'd like, and it's a little over big, but I think that's because the ship isn't that large. It was having some problems with keeping height. We are now managing to keep a height even when not moving forwards, but I had to remove some bits inside, remove some strengthening and some armour in places just to keep that height going. Happy with the nose, which is where a lot of the weight is. There's a lot of metal in here with some alloy as well, but this nice strong nose which it goes in with has protected it in some battle testing quite nicely. A lot of shots bounce on this front when it's charging in on an adversary, so I'm quite happy with that. Its design's slightly more pike nosed, as I call it, rather than the 40k plough. Or you know, other designs, but it's sort of been keeping with what I was looking for. I might follow that through on some other ships. We'll see what the design's like. What changes we got? I've added some right head torpedoes, the missiles. Same, basically, I just stripped off the destroyers and put on here. So we got 4 of those, 2 each side. They can fire forward when charging in, and obviously to the sides, which is good. So yeah, this is the end result. With changing the guns has reduced these a little bit. They don't fire as fast or as many shells. Overall, we've got a 77k ship. Yeah. Now the firepower was at 75, but since I changed those secondary, it's gone down to 58, which is okay. not too bad. Maximum speed is 30, although I haven't done a maximum speed one since the last time I saved it. 12 meters per second. This is designed for campaign mode against the deep water guard. Most of the quite complex control blocks for setting it in for whether there's an enemy within or without, changing burn rates of the boilers and the drives, as well as setting some minimum altitudes over water so it doesn't drop into the water. It's AI behaviour. It's just got a single one. Circle at distance 1600. The idea is to circle around with the destroyers, maybe a little bit outside, approach at a very steep angle so that nose takes some of the shots and bounces a lot of the incoming damage, a little bit of altitude evasion, and keep it slightly above the altitude of whatever target it has, so that the side guns can definitely fire. That's about it on that side. Works quite well. It's not great at keeping that distance, so it tends to move in and out a little bit of that distance, but that's okay. Couple of little simple anti-missile anti-missile interceptors, that's the word I'm looking for. Not great, but they will do the job. It's mainly use speed and moving around to dodge shells, so rockets will be a problem. I would also expect this not to operate alone. It would either be with more of its kin, or possibly a flotilla leader for some destroyers, although I'm thinking of actually using the Scout Blitz as a flotilla leader, so I'm going to change that a little bit to work with the destroyers. Giving it a quick little combat test just to show what it's like. Let's go up against something. Now I have taken it up against prowlers, and it does win. It's a bit of a slog, but we'll just take it against something a little smaller just to show what the damage of those guns are like. Let's go for a Kalmar, because Kalmar's can't fast. It's quite well armoured, so we'll see how those guns do against it, and it's also something which potentially we'll have in the campaign to go against. Let's come off that and the thing, so we can see it's going down to a height which is suitable for the ship, the target is going against. It's your control is a little bit it goes a little bit over too much, but that's fine because it makes its path a little unpredictable. So now it's heading in about 30 meters a second towards the target. It'll be firing its APS guns, and the torpedoes will start coming out at about 2,500. So where are we at the moment? Just coming up with the 2,500. So we should see the right head torpedo fire any second, I'm hoping. I was expecting it, or maybe it's 2,000. I think those torpedoes may be 2,000 meters. There's casement guns on the side. They can fire at 3.5. There's the 60 mils, simple weapons, and there we have the torpedo out at, it's about 2,000. Just under 2,000. So let's see what those guns are now going to do against a Kalmar, which has got quite a bit of armour on it, so it's a reasonable test. I found that those HE frags quite good at breaking off a lot of the superstructure, and they work themselves into close to ammo boxes and start making things just disconnect and drop off. And the AP guns do quite a nice job. Obviously the torpedoes are quite a bit of damage when they hit. So yeah, the other good bit is I noticed with the AP guns, sorry, the HE frag guns, is they're quite good at taking and destroying the ship's propulsion, especially for the deep water guard, which tends to be these paddle wheels, quite good at blowing them up and leaving them a bit dead in the water. So if we go back to the ship, we can see it's holding a nice broadside with all 4 AP guns able to fire, the 3 HE frag guns, and obviously the torpedoes and the simple weapons all keep on firing at this nice sort of range around the 1600, 1700, as you can see it's swinging in and out, and it will be going up and down a little bit just to make it a little bit more difficult to fire. Overall, could be a bit better. I think if from using this as a basis, I think it could do with being a bit longer. So we've got, oh, he's down, yep. So, and we did that with fairly little damage, based upon the fact with our repairs, the amount of materials we've used, we didn't really get damaged by that. So, as I was saying, I would make it a little bit longer, some more gas areas to give it that little extra lift, which would mean that the central bit could have a bit more armour, because if they used to get hit, it tends to take out the whole section, which is a bad thing. Those casements are not very well protected now, unfortunately. So if a shot gets through, it tends to blow the whole section up, a nice big cram or something. Yeah, overall though, it's ready for use in the campaign. This is a campaign ship rather than an adventure ship. Yeah, hopefully we'll see it in the next video or so. Anyway, as always, any comments about this, leave below. I will be coming up with future sort of next generation, possibly after the next couple of ships, a next generation of design. Maybe look at what I can do with this gondola style, maybe head it in a different direction for the next level before I get into a more dreadnoughty style of ships, slightly bigger, bit more armour, but mainly with big guns rather than these little things. But comments are always welcome, and some design ideas for future ships. Allowing for the fact that these are lighter than air, their main thrust will be using the lighter than air basis, the helium pumps, rather than any rotors. So, once again, keep playing the game and have fun.